And we're live. What's up, Bears fans? This is the Bear Report podcast, a special edition recapping the first episode of Hard Knocks featuring the Chicago Bears. It's finally here, August 6th. The Bears have been in training camp now for over 2 weeks, and we finally got a look here at the new Hard Knocks season. I'm one of your hosts, Zach Pearson. Joining me is my co-host of the Bear Report podcast, Aaron Lemming. This is something new that we're doing. I don't think Aaron and I have ever gone live on here, so bear with us, no pun intended. But yeah, no, it's going to be fun. We're going to try and break down every episode, starting with tonight. First off, Aaron, how you doing, man? It's only been a day since we've seen each other. Usually it's about a week since we record.
I know, it's funny because I actually forgot that we were doing video until right when I jumped on this, and we're just moved not too long ago, and we're in a rental for another month. So we get this white background in front of us, and then one of our new additions to our group here. So he is hanging out with me, and so he will probably bounce around a little bit, but he's been a weirdly mellow puppy. But yeah, no, it's kind of a surreal feeling, right? Because it feels like, every fan wants their favorite team to be on Hard Knocks, right? And the Bears have fought it more than probably any other team, at least publicly, that I've ever seen. And yet it didn't matter. Like, there's so many storylines with this team that the NFL finally forced them to do it, and here we are.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's finally here. I've been up at House Hall. I've seen all the cameras. I actually thought going into this, the cameras, no offense to them, they're very nice people, but I thought the cameras were going to be a little intrusive. That has not been the case. You could also kind of see, like, there's some more stuff that I've seen them film that's not been featured in this episode yet. I won't say anything or spoil it, but it's going to get a little better. I mean, let's just start it off, dude. First off, the intro, awesome. I really liked it. Kind of the whole playing up the city, the fan aspect. Actually, Greg Briggs was on the bridge in that scene of all the fans. I don't know if you caught that.
I didn't. No.
Yeah, no, he's on the bridge.
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, we got to ask him how he got on that. But it was just like key players from the roster on that boat. Those are like the architectural boats in Chicago that go through the Chicago River. That was pretty cool. I was fired up about that. I didn't take a lot of notes from this episode. I tried to. I started to. The first note I took, though, right away, man, they give us the new look Matt Eberflus. They show him at his house with Ryan Poles. He mentioned this in the opening press conference where he was talking about he had a team get together, like a barbecue, to kind of kick off training camp. And there it was. We get that look. That's on the North Shore, probably near Lake Forest, for those who are familiar with the Illinois area. And the new look Flus, man, going with like the summer T-shirt, the summer chinos, the white, the white shoes. Are you shocked we got the new, the quote unquote new Flus feature more than once actually in this episode?
Yeah, no, I feel like that was definitely one of the main storylines. I thought it was hilarious that him and Ryan Griffin came dressed exactly naturally, right? Yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. So again, my mind is kind of on like house hunting. We just got done, basically putting in an offer, got accepted. So we're in the process of buying a house. So my mind is on like house values and all that stuff. You're local, so you probably give me a better idea. How much is Matt Eberflus's house worth? I mean, that's got to be a multi-million-dollar home, right?
2-3 mil at least, maybe 4. That area where Lake Forest is in, up there, it wasn't Winnetka, but it's like the Winnetka to like Lake Forest type area on the lake. Yeah, man, you're looking at probably even more, 5-6 million, maybe, depends.
Nice.
Very nice houses up there, dude. I'll put in perspective for you. When my wife lived in the area, Winnetka area, and by no means does she have, tons of money or anything like that. I drove a Nissan like Rogue when I first met her, and I was like, man, this is paid off for me. I'm feeling great. And I went up there and it's like Audi, Lamborghini, Mercedes, BMW. I'm like, I don't fit in up here. Yeah. But no, and it's right on the lake, beautiful view. What he's talking, like you can see the fireworks from Navy Pier, which was great, for him. But yeah, dude, and we got the new look Flus a couple of different times. He was with Lawrence Funk, the barber. They kind of broke that. I mean, I wasn't shocked by that.
No, not really. I mean, it's funny because it's like new look, but then like you listen to him talk, and it's still the same Matt Eberflus, right? I mean, he's just, and I don't mean this in a derogatory or negative way whatsoever, but he's just kind of a goofy guy. Like he's just a different kind of guy. So it was definitely interesting to kind of see. I thought the Nick Saban thing was really cool. Just kind of having him come in and basically talk to Eberflus and them kind of go a little bit deeper, especially with the quarterback stuff, because obviously Caleb Williams is a huge storyline. He's going to be a huge storyline for the Bears for the next few years, regardless if he's good or not. He's going to be a huge storyline. And I thought it was very interesting to kind of hear Nick Saban talk about, and this was kind of previewed before the episode came out, but it was kind of interesting to hear it all like in real time and just get a feel for, what he was saying. And it's definitely interesting because he talked about the expectations and the basically wanting him to be good right out of the gate and never letting these guys get a chance to develop, and then talking about the leadership aspect and not just being a leader when you're winning and not just being that guy when things are going good, but being that guy all the time. And then it kind of broke to some of Caleb Williams' struggles. But regardless of how you feel about Nick Saban as a person, I don't think there's very many people who dislike him by any means. But regardless of how you feel about him, I mean, he's an outstanding coach, especially at the college level. So it's really interesting to kind of get that perspective from one of, if not the best college head coach ever to do it, and kind of get that perspective on the Bears.
Yeah, that was interesting. And I like how like the whole thing started with the phone call. You come in that open, it's the phone call to Caleb. We've seen all that, but still at the same time, like you still kind of get like that chill a little bit. Like you kind of get a little goosebumps. We've known the Bears were going to take Caleb Williams for months, a couple months leading into the draft. We've seen that footage, and to see it open up Hard Knocks and kind of show the Caleb Williams stuff early, that was really cool to me. I love the Ray Clay, the Alan Parsons Project, Chicago Bulls intro. That was incredible to me. Being a Bulls fan growing up, Michael Jordan's like a superhero to me. That was one of the coolest parts of this episode. And like, I don't know, for me, it just kind of took off there. I felt like they weren't going to top that in this episode. And I know I'd just be seeing on social media, and probably some people that are watching this right now. We have over 300 people in here. And if you're on YouTube or Facebook, I think you can comment, and I'll put some comments up here. Again, we've never really done this. So Aaron and I are kind of learning on the fly here. But I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this probably had that same feeling where it's like it brought you back to those 90s Bulls. The from North Carolina. They did the from, Southern California. That was cool. Because, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the promo, but I think the promo is like "Change of the Winds" or "Winds of Change" is like the slogan for this season. Yeah. And for me, like that's essentially a defensive dominant franchise for almost all of the franchise's history over 100 years. Besides Gale Sayers and Walter Payton and a couple offensive players, it's been defense, and now the center point, man, it's on Caleb Williams. It's on the most exciting thing. Essentially, some said it since Michael Jordan. I don't know how true that is or if people agree, but that was a cool moment for me. And then kind of going on with the Caleb story. What'd you think of the whole Caleb thing? Because I know when I was like on our message board and talking to some USC fans, they were kind of worried like this episode, even Bears fans they were worried like it was going to be a lot of 85 Bears, a lot of, the older Bears, and they weren't going to see a lot of Caleb. This episode was what, 70% Caleb?
Yeah, well, and I think it kind of has to be, right? I mean,
yes.
This is like, obviously the Bears have done a lot to remake this roster over the last few years, but like the one thing that kind of topped all of this off, the reason that everybody's been so focused on this team is because they got Caleb Williams, and they got Caleb Williams without being the worst team in the league. This wasn't last year where they made the trade. So yeah, I think for me, I love it because again, and I've said this, I don't know how many times, I'll continue to say it. People are probably tired of hearing me say it. I'm an Oklahoma fan. Like I watched Caleb Williams since he was at Gonzaga High School. Like, this has been a player that has been highly anticipated. The fact that the Bears finally have, a former Oklahoma Sooner. I know he played the last 2 years with USC. I don't care. He's an Oklahoma Sooner to me. He even said horns down.
He says it too, yeah.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where it's very surreal. Obviously, you know, the Justin Fields thing ended kind of weird, but at the same time, like this whole the whole Caleb Williams narrative, and it's been kind of nice to see because again, we saw all the craziness going on and being said about him starting back in November. He wasn't a team player. No, you know, nobody liked him. He was oh man, I'm going to draw a blank. Bo Callahan, like all this crazy stuff, and we're starting to see that that's just not the case. So yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a storyline. I think what I liked about this though was it wasn't just him going out there and them showing all the greatest throws. You know, it was him struggling and him, you know, overcoming some of those issues and kind of being true to how training camp has gone so far, where it's not just this huge sugar-coated thing. There have been struggles. There's going to be struggles. Like Caleb Williams said, I mean, they got a good defense. Like this is a brand new offense. They've got a lot of new offensive weapons. It's a rookie quarterback, a brand new offensive coordinator. There's going to be growing pains. So I do like that Hard Knocks has stayed kind of true to the chronological order of how things have gone and stayed true to the story of how training camp has gone so far. I think that's been kind of nice.
Yeah, you're right. Like they said, ups and downs. They showed, you know, some really nice throws. It was Jalen Jones had like a comment like, man, I don't know how he did that with the sidearm. Look at that throw. That's a defensive player saying that. And if you followed, you know, anyone on social media that's been there, my reports, you've known how vocal the defense has been, letting the offense know when they win on plays. So it's kind of cool to see that as well. The other thing I wanted to talk about with Caleb Williams that I found really interesting and I thought was really cool was the DeAndre Swift, when he's talking to him, he's like, you have the voice. You're the voice. Go talk to him. Say it in the huddle. And we've heard this, like early on in camp, you know, while the reports were, you know, that Caleb Williams is ahead of the curve and ahead of where they want him to be, they were talking about in the huddle and the operation and talking to the players. We've heard Keenan Allen. We've heard players on the defense say how he's improved with how he's handling the offense and the huddle, the pre-snap stuff. And you kind of saw DeAndre Swift there, like, you know, you have the voice. This is your voice. Talk to him. That's cool. Like DeAndre Swift, he's a veteran. I mean, he's not an 8-9 year veteran. He's a guy who's been in this league, 4 or 5 years. He's played with Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? Like he's played with a good quarterback before. And
Stafford too. I mean,
Stafford's
no slouch either.
Exactly. I forgot if he was there in Detroit for that year, but yeah, he was. You're right. That's cool for me to see. Like, and you hear all the stuff like you brought up, the leadership stuff and this and that and all. He's respected in that locker room. I don't care what Amani Toomer says about the picking up trash and anyone else, dude. He's respected in that locker room, and I think that was not like fully shown on this episode. I'm sure we'll see more. But it was shown early on in this episode, mainly with the Caleb stuff.
Yeah, well, and I think that this is going to give, and again, it's TV, so you kind of have to take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. But I think that this is going to give a lot of the skeptics out there that there still are skeptics of Caleb Williams, not as a player, but as a person. And I think that this is going to kind of give them a better idea of, one, how the team feels about him. I think even the whole singing, man, I wish they'd stop doing the whole singing thing. Like the Theo Benedict thing was funny. Listening, and maybe it's just because I, you know, am somewhat of a musician, I guess you could say. Like it absolutely, like, bad singing drives me nuts. Like it makes me cringe. It makes me uncomfortable. So like that aspect of it was a little rough. But even with that and him forgetting the words and everything else happening, like you can see the camaraderie that has already been formed with this team around the rookie quarterback, and just some of the stuff that DJ Moore was saying. It's definitely it. Again, I'm not going to say it feels different because everybody loved Justin Fields as well. So, you know, I'm not going to say that would be a discredit to Justin Fields by saying it's different. But I do think that a lot of these concerns about Fields leaving with the amount of locker room support he had and a rookie quarterback coming in, I think a lot of those can be quelled by seeing just some of the stuff that we've seen so far, you know, between camp, what's been reported, then obviously the first episode of Hard Knocks. There's definitely a level of respect there. And I mean, I think that's a really good sign. I mean, this is a team. they're not going to compete, or they probably shouldn't compete for a Super Bowl this year, but they should be competing for some sort of playoff spot. Even if that's the 7 seed wild card, it doesn't matter. Like, this team should have a winning record when it's all said and done. And a lot of that's going to depend on Caleb Williams. And the other thing I thought was kind of interesting too was, and it was a very short conversation, but just kind of listening to D'Amico Ryans and Matt Eberflus go back and forth at the Hall of Fame game, kind of comparing the two quarterbacks. We're going to hear that comparison a lot.
Yep. Oh yeah, especially with what CJ Stroud did last year. It's almost kind of, I don't want to say it's unfair to Caleb, but I definitely think what CJ Stroud did last year, the expectations are, that's what people want from Caleb Williams. And those Bears fans, I'm never going to tell anyone, like, temper your expectations. Don't, dream high or anything about this team. At some point, though, there are people on the outside, the national fans that are not fans of the Bears, that think, Caleb Williams is going to be a bust if he doesn't do what CJ Stroud does. And that's just not the case. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. With the singing, what was Williams' song "Ordinary People"? I think by John Legend. And he couldn't get to it, I think.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There are a lot of songs that you can sing that you could probably get away with.
A lot of John Legend. Well, you could sing you could sing a couple John Legend songs. It's just, that one is really tough to sing. That one is really tough to sing, I think.
I feel like that would be like going up there as a woman trying to sing like Adele. Like, you're just not,
yeah, it's hard.
The level of talent that
I agree.
And Adele have, like, you just don't attempt it. You don't go to a karaoke bar and start singing John Legend. Like, he's a fantastic singer. He's got a lot of catchy songs. It isn't a slight at him at all. He's an outstanding vocalist.
It's hard.
There's very few people who could do what he does. So yeah, no chance.
Yeah, I just do when I go to the bars. I just do Tequila, that song. Where it's like, sing 5 words and you're done. But no, we're gonna get more singing. I'm curious to see what Troy Taylor is gonna sing, Roma Dunze, because this is kind of the theme with all the Hard Knocks. Like, you remember the viral Aiden Hutchinson clip.
Billie Jean, right?
Billie Jean. I'm trying to remember what last year's was. I think last year's they did like a magic trick, and they had a magician in there for the Jets.
I think it was the Mind Reader, wasn't it?
The Mind Reader, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, and it's funny because I thought out of all of the singing stuff was just made me cringe a little bit, but I thought the Marcus Walker in the front row was hilarious. Like, everybody with Tyson Bagent's reaction to the signing bonus thing, but I thought DeMarcus Walker was hilarious.
Yeah, no, he was good. He's a good personality. When you're around him, he's a very good personality. So yeah, I'm curious to see what else they do with the rookies. The other thing was, outside of the Eberflus clip, outside of his house and showing Jalen Johnson with the car. At the end, we got a little bit, obviously Jonathan Owens gets the spotlight with Simone but like, we really didn't see any like outside stuff yet as much as we've seen in previous seasons. It's coming. I'm sure they're going to have it, but like, we did see, was it Steven Carlson and Colin Johnson at like a coffee shop at the end?
Very, very end. I mean, they only got basically one. I guess it was 2 things, but they only got one real thing, Ryan Poles. I mean, he was in the beginning with the Lake House thing, but really the only thing was the DJ Moore contract extension. But frankly, I feel like we got to talk about that. Like, that had to have been the most humble way to just sign a $110 million contract. I mean, that's who DJ Moore is. Like, he's that kind of guy, but that's crazy, man. Like, just going out and signing that kind of contract, like walking up from practice, signing it, doing what you need to do, walking back down, interacting. Him and Keenan Allen seem to have a pretty good relationship so far, at least based on, the first episode and some of the things that they've shown, the Bears have shown within videos.
Yeah, the DJ stuff was cool. And, we kind of got the story of that when he was talking and at his presser, and he was telling about like kind of what happened. I was curious if they were going to show the locker room stuff after, because DJ said like it was like kind of like a party in the locker room. Because Caleb posted a photo or like a clip on his Instagram where he kind of pushed DJ's head when he had the helmet on or something like that. I was curious to see if we're going to see any of that, but yeah, the DJ Moore stuff was good. I was hoping we'll see his family. I'm guessing we're going to see his family in it eventually.
Well, his daughter was signing autographs.
Yeah.
Training camp days, I think.
Yeah, and they do have, like I said, I don't want to give a lot of it away, but like after practice, they have the families come on the field, and there's the, I mean, dude, these cameras are nonstop out there. Like it's not like us in the media. Like when practice is done, we go inside and we eat our cold sandwich and wait for the pressers. Dude, those cameras are everywhere out there. And like I said, they're not as intrusive as I thought. They have a lot of footage. Like they have a lot more footage. So I don't think we're going to be short of anything. I think we're going to start to see like the outside life stuff. That's what I'm always kind of interested in. I don't know if you watched the Cowboys one, but I thought the Travion Diggs, his son, like loving Dak Prescott and meeting Dak Prescott at the yogurt or like the frozen yogurt place was kind of cool. I think we're going to get some cool stuff like that. But yeah, honestly, man, maybe it was just me, but or maybe I'm probably wrong, but I really didn't expect a lot from the Hall of Fame game in this. But then it makes sense because they're going to do the Buffalo game this week. But we got more out of the Hall of Fame game, and Caleb talking with Marcus Allen. That was kind of cool.
Starstruck.
Yeah, that was kind of. I mean, they've met in the past. I'm assuming they've met in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eberflus saying like that's a legend, and then kind of getting kind of feeling bad for what is it? Was it Austin Reed's family?
Yeah, him basically because he was 2 for 3 for like 10 yards or something like that.
Yeah, and then the
board game, yeah.
The Lightning came. Did you catch the DJ Moore, Caleb? And was it? I think it was like Montez was in the background or Keenan Allen. One of the two were in the background. They're talking. Yeah. Who was it? Who do you think?
I thought it was Keenan Allen. They're talking
about Keenan Allen?
How many receivers are?
Yeah, he's like. Yeah, Caleb's like, well, he's on the roster for right now, or something like that, and DJ's like, well, how many wide receivers do you think they're gonna keep? And we've talked about this on our podcast, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was a good episode. Maybe I was expecting a little more. Like, I didn't think it was like fantastic. Like, it's definitely not going to get IMBD like perfect scores, but that's not expected. I think it's going to start picking up a little more, and I'm curious to see when they get into like the team meetings after games, like the film sessions, how much they show, how much the Bears want to show, because from my understanding, the coaches and the Bears get like final say for some things on
some of the stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
I think some of the stuff. And I mean, the reality is like, it's, every team has gone through, like they're going to sit down and do, like you said, they're going to do the film room stuff. Like that's just kind of part of it. Like even when Eberflus was taking notes when they were talking to Nick Saban, like he had a notebook full of notes and they blurred out the notes.
They blurred out. Yeah, they blurred out the when DJ signing his contract. They kind of like they focus in on him, so like it's kind of blurred the background where Ryan Poles is going through the numbers and all that stuff. And I don't know. Did you catch Kevin Warren in there talking about the contract?
Yeah, I figured he was going to show up somewhere. That was just a really odd. Like I like Kevin Warren. I don't think, and I know everybody's got their hot takes on Kevin Warren. I don't think any of the stadium stuff is his fault. I think a lot of this comes down to not having, cash-rich owners. And relying on a bunch of public funding and state funding help and all that stuff. But there's just some times where I'm like, it's like, okay, I get he's the team president, but it's like, do we really need to hear him breaking down the contract? Like, I don't, that was
kind of interesting. Yeah. I didn't expect that coming out of that. I guess, before we kind of wrap things up, there's two things I want to ask you. We'll start with this. What was your favorite moment of this episode, or thing, clip, whatever?
It'd probably have to be after. Well, I guess ignoring the singing, the Theo Benedette thing was pretty funny.
Eagle, that's his nickname now. Eagle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those are the kind of moments that kind of make it, right? I mean, those are the kind of moments that make it memorable. I was kind of hoping they were going to do a little bit more on like Colin Johnson, just like him as a person. I don't know. Well, that's right. You weren't at the game. Did you catch the after the game presser?
Yes.
That just kind of speaks to the kind of guy that he is, and it's hard not to root for people like that. And I kind of figured maybe Hard Knocks to lean a little bit more into that, especially because as we know, like the preseason happens, like you could have that one preseason game where everything goes right, and then the rest of the time, like he may have 2 catches the rest of the preseason. So
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping they'd focus a little bit more in on that. But no, I thought the Theo Benedet thing was pretty good. I don't know. I don't think there was a whole lot of moments that really stood out. I think more than anything, it's kind of a surreal feeling that the Bears are actually doing this. Like this is actually happening despite George McCaskey fighting it tooth and nail for God knows how long. It's finally happening. Now, what I will say, speaking of Kevin Warren, I am really curious because this would be a prime opportunity for him and the organization to kind of make their public pitch on getting a new stadium and kind of pushing the state of Illinois for funding and all that other stuff. So that I'm sure at some point in time, you talk about like all the outside extracurricular stuff in terms of not on the football field. I think that's going to be one of the things that at some point in time, they're probably going to focus more in on, I would guess.
Yeah, so I was at the Soldier Field presentation when they wanted to keep it in the city. I did not notice any Hard Knocks cameras. So we'll see if they do that. My favorite moment was the Alan Parsons, Ray Clay, the Jordan intro. That was just so cool to me. I've talked about it enough, so that was my favorite moment of it. All right, I know what you didn't like, the singing, obviously. What are you hoping to see, or what are you looking forward to in, let's see, what the next, 4 or 5 episodes left?
I think there should be 4, right? Because there's
4.
5 total.
5 or 6, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't know. Like, see, so you're asking somebody who really hasn't watched a whole lot of Hard Knocks in the last like 7-8 years, right? So like, I like the storylines. Like, I think more than anything, because I'm just kind of I don't know the best way to describe this. I'm not even going to try to describe it because it's just going to sound weird. I like seeing the breakdowns on people, like people who they are at a molecular level, right? Like just getting to know guys like a Colin Johnson or some of the other players like in past years, like even getting to know Dan Campbell. Like honestly, between his first press conference and all that stuff, I kind of thought dude was a lunatic.
Yeah.
But then you really start to get to know him and you're like, no, this is actually a really good dude. He just has a different way of doing things. And so I don't know, that's always kind of my favorite part is learning more about people, especially, for as much as we cover this team, for as much writing and podcasting and work as we do, and then watching them for at least 17 games a season, plus the 3 to 4 preseason games. Like it's kind of good to get to see the human aspect. That's kind of what I liked about the Jonathan Owen, Simone Biles stuff. Like, yeah, like some people say it might be a little predictable. I don't know. I felt like the Jonathan Owens reactions and everything about that entire situation was very genuine. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to too. I'm like waiting for that, 1 to 2 player storyline. I think looking at this team, you can kind of tell who they're going to focus in on. I think Troy Taylor is probably an obvious one. DJ Moore would be an obvious one to me. Bro Madunze. Obviously Caleb Williams is gonna be there, but will there be a guy, we saw a little bit of it with Colin Johnson tonight, like fighting for that roster spot. The Cowboys won. I mean, they had the international player from Mexico trying to make the roster. The Jets had the 2 like friends at running back or wide receiver trying to make the roster. I think the Lions I can't remember who the Lions had. They had another player. Yeah. Who's going to be that guy? I think it's going to be Colin Johnson, Brett Rippon. I don't know. They talked a little bit about them, but that could obviously change if they don't play well. But I'm kind of looking more like the human aspect of things. Like, what are we going to get to see outside of football? Whether it is big star players or whether it is, guys trying to make the roster. And then where are the rest of the, high profile guys? We saw Jalen Johnson. We haven't really seen Jaquan Brisker, Tremaine Edmonds, Montez Sweat. There's a lot of guys who haven't been featured yet or talked about yet, and I'm kind of see how that progresses moving forward. Not a lot of offensive line talk either, which they're not really going into the X's and O's, but you know what I mean. Could get some of that.
I would guess things will ramp up because they've been filming for 2 weeks now, and they just finally have a game. I mean, nobody else has had games. I would guess that things are going to get a lot more intense over the next few episodes. And obviously the roster crunch. I mean, the roster crunch happens quick, man. There's 3 games and that's it. So and obviously the Bears will have an extra one. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I've always enjoyed the stuff outside of football aspect a little bit more when it comes to Hard Knocks. And I think maybe that's the reason I haven't really watched it a ton lately, because it felt a little played out. But obviously then they started doing the in-season stuff, which I thought was really cool. And then they did the, the off-season one with the Giants, which I thought was really cool as well. And obviously with the Bears, it's just a very different thing. It's like watching the Hall of Fame game. Like I could be entertained watching the Bears play the Hall of Fame game. I don't feel that way about almost any other team out there. So yeah, it's kind of where it's
at. Well, we did have the cheesy anyone in Chicago can ride the L, but in House Hall they want the W's or whatever. I figured something like that was coming. Let's wrap it up, Aaron. Where can everyone follow you on Twitter, X, whatever it is?
Yeah, it's Twitter. I don't care what you want. You can follow me at Aaron Lemming NFL, and you can read my work on the BearReport.com.
Yeah, you can follow me at Zach ZACK_Pearson. Just follow the Bear Report at Bear Report. As I said in the podcast, like we have daily notebooks, reporter there every day of practice, updating you guys, and looking forward to doing this after every episode. I think this was kind of fun. It's a quick little recap, and we'll be back next week. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on all major podcasting platforms. It's just Bear Report Podcast. We appreciate the support. Until next time, everyone. See you later.